Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good
Okay,
morning, sir.
now, morning. See, on last turn, we are discussing about PPT is perhaps not visible to you. Okay. So on last turn, we are discussing about internal data forwarding. Okay, and you have seen store load forwarding. Here, suppose same information we have to store in the memory, and again we are loading it in register R2. Means the content of register R1 is loaded into the memory, and same content is being first content of R1 is stored in memory, and same content is get loaded in register 2. So we have to perform this operation. The content of register 1 through access unit, memory access unit, will be loaded to memory, and again any problem? Okay. See, come back. So here we are replacing this load instruction by move instruction. What it will do? The information is get loaded in memory, but in next instruction cycle, it is transferred from register R1 to R2, and we can save the time. This is internal data forwarding, means within the processor we are forwarding the required information, that is partially computed result. Next is load forwarding. If suppose same information is needed by two instructions, here you can see, so both will perform memory fetch operation, load this memory fetch and this memory fetch. It will take, and last time you have seen much time, about 8 cycle, but here you can perform entire operation in 5 cycle. What we are doing? First we are loading the information in a register and then transferring from this register to this register. Okay. See an example. This is an example. See the code. This code. R3 is R1 into R2. Then R3 is transferred to R4 and here R4 is being used. So for this, we have this data flow. This is the data flow. R1 and R2 are get multiplied, stored in R3, then moved, means again it is moved to R4, and then it is added with R5. Okay, means these three instructions will execute using this data flow. What we will do, we will just directly loading the result of R1 into R2 in R4. Okay, and modifying the instruction like this. R3 is R1 into R2, R4 is R1 into R2. So only result is replicated for loading the result in R3 as well as R4, and then you can perform, and data flow is like this. Means after multiplication you can store the result in R3 as well as in R4. This is the case of internal data forwarding. Okay, that will means just see, when you have to keep this thing in mind, that we are doing this these execution in pipeline. Okay, suppose we have a pipeline. This operation must be at execution state. Okay, so this is execution unit, and then we have a unit to write back. Okay, what we do, we can directly forward it back to the execution unit. Okay, and it will write back to R3. Just see, I will give you an example. See the execution. This is the pipeline. This is time axis, and these are the pipe clock, slot for pipe clock. So suppose this is, after then you have execute unit. This is execute unit. These are the previous units. And this is write back. So here instruction I1 is executed. Then it will be written in R3. And in next slot, I2 will execute, and then it will execute loaded in R4. Just see. After then what happens? You are executing R3 that need the result of this. In this clock, you need this result. If you simultaneously load R3 and R4, then you can save this time. When it is needed, it is transferred to the I2. Okay. So this is called internal data forwarding. Now come to the next. See, pipeline in hazard, we have discussed about the data hazard. due to the data flow. You have gone through about this. One hazard is read after write. What it means? Certain information is going to be written by instruction and written by the instruction. Then another instruction need that very reference, that very written result. In that case, it is called RAW hazard. Okay, it is same as we have discussed flow dependence. Okay, so here if certain information is going to be read and then it is get modified. In this case, this is the case of WAR, write after read, and it is nothing but NT dependence, and write after write is output dependence. Okay, and for parallel execution, you know that none of the dependencies should hold, neither flow dependency, nor NT dependency, not output dependency. So same thing written here. This hazard means RAW hazard, WAW hazard, and WAR hazard should not occur. For that, you can use these components to compute. We have already discussed about the Brustine condition for the execution of two instructions in parallel. Okay. Next, dynamic instruction scheduling. Dynamic instruction scheduling means, first see what is static instruction scheduling, and then we will discuss dynamic instruction scheduling. Static instruction scheduling is, suppose compiler identify the parallelism available in the program. On the basis of that available parallelism, it will reschedule the instruction to as per the parallelism available onto the machine, hardware parallelism, to explore it optimally. In that case, that scheduling is called static scheduling. Okay, if you are schedule the instruction for execution at the time of the execution, then that is dynamic scheduling. As in the case of languages, memory allocation. If your compiler is responsible for allocation of the memory, then that is called static memory allocation. If your machine instruction, you have the instruction, you have introduced an instruction that will cause memory allocation, as in the case of C. You write malloc in C++, new. Means when malloc will execute, malloc function will execute, our new keyword will just do the allocation of the memory at the time of execution of the program. So you say it is dynamic memory allocation, and if compiler generate instruction to allocate memory for a particular name, then that is the case of static memory allocation. So here, in same way, if compiler generate instruction in such a sequence so that maximum parallelism may be achieved by the hardware, then and obviously it has to reschedule the instruction. Okay, it on the basis of the dependence structure of the program. This compiler has to do this. Then in that case, it is called static scheduling. Okay. If we have dependency, then we say that any of the dependency, either read after write, write after read, these are the hazard dependency in this pipeline is called hazard. And WAR. Okay. So if we any of this is not equal to 5, you use the previous expression. Then we say, means for instruction II and IJ, it is not equal to 5. Then we say II and IJ are interlocked instruction. They can't be executed in parallel. So you have to go for allocation of these instructions in same schedule, so that if IJ is the successor of II, so IJ must appear after II. Okay. So this is done by the compiler. But if we do this through compiler, then we have, suppose there are several, you just consider the case of 8 P6 microarchitecture. In P6 microarchitecture, we have 5 functional units at each core. It means if we have quad core machine, so 20 functional unit. Now it is, if you are implementing a static scheduling, then in that case it will become the duty of compiler to schedule the instruction that in such a way so that we can explore the use of these 20 functional units, maximize the use of these 20 functional units, and which is impossible, because not, if you see a program, if you write a program, then it is not possible to have it may not be, that program may not have the multimedia instruction, floating point instruction. Then you can't use the floating point unit or MMU, multimedia unit. Okay, you can't use these 2 units, and means total number of unit is 8, and these 8 units are not being used entire execution of the program. What compiler will do? Compiler will do nothing. Okay. Similarly, suppose you are doing the multimedia operation or floating point in a very less number of integer operation, then it may be possible though that we have 2 integer unit on processor. So most of the time integer unit is idle. So the best way is the dynamic scheduling of instruction. What is dynamic scheduling? Means we do the scheduling of instruction. Means scheduling means allocation of instruction for execution at the time of execution of the program. So here we can do the out of order execution How we facilitate the out of order execution, that we'll discuss. We can also just see at the time of execution, we allocate the functional unit for a particular instruction. Here you just see, if you go to the execution level, you will get execution at the time after decoding the instruction. After decoding, you have the you have to fetch the operand, okay, and for that you may have to wait, okay, and if operands are not available, the instruction is not get executed. So this out of order execution has just grabbed this limitation, and we have two techniques. One is Thomsolu algorithm, another is scoreboarding. Both are the hardware based scheduling. In Thomsolu algorithm, we use a procedure for allocating the instruction to a functional unit. And in scoreboarding, we maintain a scoreboard of the dependency of the instruction. Okay. Now see the Thomsolu algorithm. Here, if you go back and see, because here it will be clear, because this is implemented in P6 microarchitecture. You can see here, you just see this portion. In this portion, we have decoder, instruction decoder, 3 decoders. Means actually it is superscalar. In P6 microarchitecture, we go for the superscalar execution. Means multiple pipeline simultaneously do the decoding. After then, decoder will generate micro instruction, and these micro instructions are get stored in the buffer, that is called instruction pool. Okay, here you see we have a register alias table. You just actually, if you see the RISC architecture, in RISC architecture we use register file. Here again we use register file. In spite of using general purpose, limited number of general purpose register, we use much of the general purpose register, but at a time only 8 registers are get considered for the execution. These 8 registers are it is called active window of the register. Active window of the register. This also helps in switching off control. Means you need not to pass the parameter. You just change the new window, because just see, if a function is get called, what happened? The control of execution has to switch to that very function and start the execution of that function. But before switching to that way, target address of the function that is being called, we perform some housekeeping operation, and That is, we just gather the environment of execution and push that environment of execution in a special memory area that is called stack. Okay, and the environment of execution is called activation record. Why it is called activation record? Because we say activation record because after execution of the call function, the activation record will be used to reactivate the previous program. Means it will, from there it will get the status of the register and other information. It will refer from the machine status. It will refer from the activation record only. So in machine status, what you will have? You will have the value of the registers. Partially computed result. Register contains the partially computed result. So that register is, suppose this is the active window at the time of switching. So what we can do, we can switch. We just leave this 8 register, assign new register, 8 register for execution of this program. Again, suppose we have to pass the parameters. Parameter must be calculated here. So what we can do, we can keep the parameter in register and include those register in this new window. Means we have, suppose there are 2 register containing the parameter that is to be passed to the call function. In that case, 2 register containing the information that is to be passed are the part of the new window. You have to add only 6 new registers to make a window of 8 register. Okay. So here we have register alias table. Means actually what we do, aliasing means renaming. We rename the register, we tag the register. Tagging is done in the Thumb-Selu algorithm, by the Thumb-Selu algorithm. Okay. And this is the, and your instruction, micro ops are get resided in this very instruction pool. Now this reservation station, Thumb-Selu algorithm is get implemented through reservation station. Okay, this reservation station will look that which functional unit can do the execution. Means it functional unit is idle. It will allocate the instruction, but before allocating the instruction, it will say look for its dependency. If suppose there is an instruction to perform addition of A and B, 2 operands. So these operands are get generated or not. If these operands are get generated, then only this reservation station will do the allocation of that instruction to an integer unit to perform integer addition. Okay. So it will do. Now suppose you have to write R1 is R2 plus R3. Integer unit has performed the R1 plus R2, R2 plus R3. But you have to route the result to R1. What it will do? And R1 is not, there is a problem in this R1, this value of R1 may be or it is being used or it will be used. So what it will do? Where to store this information? For that, it will tag a new register, register tagging, and assign name R1 and store this result. That will be the part of the new window, and this, and it will supply this information to retirement unit. Retirement unit will retire the instruction accordingly using this partially computed result. Okay, this is the Thumb-Solu algorithm. Okay, we have you just see here in this in P6 microarchitecture we have unified resolution station, but here the allocation of after decoding allocation are done to a particular reservation station. Okay, if instruction is floating point instruction, then it will allocate it to this or this. If it is, I mean, suppose this is MMU, this is FU, floating point unit, this is integer unit, and this is memory unit. Memory unit means responsible for doing load and store operation to the memory. Okay, here from here you have to perform the internal data forwarding. Okay, now what happens after decoding the instruction? Instructions are get issued in the for a reservation station. It will issue to particular reservation station, and it will remain in the reservation station up to the instant the operand required for that instruction is get available. When operand become available, it will assign the instruction to a function unit for execution, and execution will take place. So in this manner, the Thumb-Solu algorithm will do the allocation of instruction dynamically. Okay. Next is scoreboarding. Again, what we do, we maintain a scoreboard. Okay, and in scoreboard, we have the information about instruction, and this scoreboard look for the operand. When all the operand for an instruction is get available, it is get recorded in scoreboard. Okay, and when all instruction is get available, it will send a signal to issue to allocate this instruction to particular execution unit for execution. Okay, so we maintain the scoreboard, and suppose this execution unit is doing the execution of the instruction and produce a result. This result is needed by another instruction, means suppose the case of interlock. So that instruction must wait up to the execution of this instruction, and when result is going to be loaded back to the memory, this will modify the scoreboard related to that instruction that needs the result of instruction we have just executed, and this scoreboard will permit to the control of execution to it will permit to issue the instruction for execution because the operand needed is now available. Okay, this is your scoreboard. Now see branch handling technique. Third hazard you have seen is control hazard. Okay. You have also seen we can convert control hazard occurs due to the control structure of the program and dependency due to this control structure. So I have told you at that time during discussion of the dependence analysis, we can convert the control dependency into data dependency. Okay. Suppose this is a program segment, and for this program segment we have this code. Okay. These two instructions is depend upon the branch instructions. Okay. So what we will do, you have seen how we can convert a control dependence into data dependence. We just compute the predicate, this P1 means accordingly you can true or not true, and associate with the instruction that is to be executed. If P1 is true, then this instruction will be executed, otherwise it will consider as no op. And if this will execute when P2 is true, and this will execute when P1 will true. Okay. And for that, if you see the machine supporting predicated, this type of execution is called predicated execution. Okay. And machine supporting predicated execution are like this. In spite of having all other thing you know up to now, this is a pipeline. If you see instruction fetch unit, instruction decode unit, instruction memory access unit, write back, okay, register file, everything is here. Here you just see we have a predicate register that stores the predicate. If a particular predicate is true, it will refer this predicate register, and as per the predicate value stored in the register, it will act, it will perform the instruction. It will either execute the instruction or consider it as no op. Okay. Another, this is the general strategy to handle the branch instruction by and actually compiler does this. Okay. We must have the deterministic method. The next is delayed branches. Suppose, for example, here you just see, I will just explain. The code is visible to you. नहीं, ये गलत आ गया. See, this is branch instruction. This is branch instruction. Now, how it will do the execution? You just consider I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, I6. These are the, and I3 is the branch instruction. This is the branch instruction. Suppose you are using 4-stage pipeline, just for example. So how it will stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. I1. Just see, I1 will execute in normal fashion. I2 will be here. I1 will be here. It is I2, and you just see now. See, I1 will be executed. I2 will be here. Here I3, I4, I5, I3, I4, I5. This is I3, I4, I3, I2. This is execute stage 2. When I3 will execute, it will say branch has to be taken or not. Meantime, what you have, I4 is in decode stage and I5 has been fetched. These two are in pipeline. Okay, and suppose branch has to be taken. So at most here you can IT. So load the target branch, but I5 and I4 are in pipeline. Okay, and the execution result of these I4 and I5 may cause wrong result. Means problem in the semantic of the program. So what we can do, again, just see, we can delete the branch. Means we can advance instruction before this instruction. Means suppose the instruction that are not dependent on this branch instruction are maybe advanced. Means you have to pick 2 instruction before this, and you have to just relocate those 2 instruction after this. Okay, so what we can do, just see, this decrease R3, decrement of R3 by 1 is dependent on this branch instruction. So you can't transfer this, means you can't move this. You can't move this code. But load R1A is independent. So you can move R1 here after I3. So just see, I2 is dependent, but I1 is not dependent. You have inserted here. If you can pick one more instruction from here and you can insert here, then you can reschedule the instruction and you will get the desired efficiency. Either branch has to be taken or not. Okay. But in the case of non-availability of the instruction that may be advanced after branch instruction, we can pad no operation. Okay, that will just install the pipeline for that very stream. Okay, in this way we can improve the efficiency. Next thing, okay, now come to the another technique is you know that we have discussed during design of the beginning at the beginning of this very discussion of instruction pipeline design. You have seen we have discussed about 3 buffer. One is pre-fetch buffer, another is branch target buffer, and third one is loop buffer. Okay, so how we feed this we have discussed through static branch prediction. We have a static branch prediction technique. I have told you that we will consider the design of the instruction set architecture. Each instruction set, each group of instruction has a fixed prefix. Okay, on the basis of prefix we can identify that this instruction belongs to data transfer group or arithmetic and logic group or branch group or in which group. So we can identify the instruction belonging to branch group through by looking into the prefix, and accordingly we capture the target of the instruction and load the target instruction in branch target buffer. Similarly, we have technique to detect loops, and this actually during optimization your compiler also detect loops, because we have to put more emphasis in loops, because most of the time your processor is busy in executing the instruction from the loop. Okay, so if we can optimize the loop, we may improve the efficiency of the program execution. So this is okay. We will discuss on next one. You can go for the next class. Okay, any problem, any difficulty? बोलो भाई, सुनाई दे रहा है?
Yes sir.
अच्छा चलो, हम क्या कि तुम लोग गायब हो गए, हम ही बोल रहे हैं अकेले. चलो, कोई परेशानी नहीं हुई तुम लोगों को? हाँ, आपको वो मिल गई पीपीटी ना?
यस सर, यस.
आप लोग डाउनलोड कर लीजिए पीपीटी. ओके, इस वीक में यूनिट 2 भी खत्म हो जाएगा। ओके,
थैंक यू
कैसे पता चलेगा?
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू।
क्विज का नंबर कैसे पता चलेगा?
क्विज का नंबर तुम्हारे पास गया नहीं था? हेलो, तुम लोग क्विज का
नो
नंबर नहीं
सर।
मिला? हाँ? अभी
नो सर।
अभी
नो
अभी
सर,
अभी
नहीं आया।
अच्छा, अभी मेल भेज दे रहे हैं। क्विज में तुम लोग ठीक किए नहीं हो। ऐसा है, कुछ लोग चोरी करने की कोशिश किए हैं। एक तो यादव है, वो पकड़ा गया है। हाँ? उसको पता होगा कि वो चोरी करने की कोशिश किया है। हाँ? अभी हम सार्वजनिक नहीं करेंगे उसका नाम। हम मेल कर दे रहे हैं सबको इंडिविजुअल स्कोर। ओके,
सर
चलो मेल कर देंगे आज।
यस सर।
जाओ दूसरा क्लास करो, आज मेल हो जाएगा। इसको पहले से जवाब देना और आपको दीजिए। हवा में जाएंगे उसका उन्होंने भेजा होगा। यहाँ तक कि उसका प्रूफ जो है उसी के साथ अपलोड करके सब्जेक्ट करेंगे। हमारा संस्कृति में जय हो गया है। ऐसी सब्जेक्ट छोड़ो, तुम्हारा डिटेल्स क्या है? नहीं है जाओ तो क्या करना? काम नहीं है। पेपर तो डॉक्यूमेंट तुम्हारे मार्केट के लिए पीछे लिखा है, पढ़ के देखो। जब तक प्रूफ नहीं रहेगा नहीं माना जाएगा। हम मार्केट दे रहे हैं। इसको हाईलाइट करके
As per this, there are 5 subjects of either two language and clear or one language or
उसको हाईलाइट करके भेजो। और अंदर ए मीनू गई